Like it or not, I think Donald Trump is a sign. I like the guy. But I do believe Lance Wallnau's prophecy that the 45th president would be like Cyrus of Isaiah 45. And I think he is. He's a sign. Now, in my opinion, the guy is more like probably what the disciples of Jesus were like than most of us would like to admit. They were all Donald Trumps. They were the edgiest, crazy people out there. I'm not saying our president's the edgiest, craziest, but he's edgy. And, but my point is, there's some remarkable parallels. Maybe some of you've studied them, been some words out about it. Truly incredible parallels. What's happened in our country to what happened under Ahab and Jezebel. The timelines of, Jezebel's whole point was to lead Israel into immorality and the worship of idols, and how this has happened in our country. We've fallen to the ultimate depravity that we see in Isaiah 5 that a nation can fall to, where we start calling good evil and evil good, honoring the dishonorable and dishonoring the honorable man. We've fallen about as far as you can fall as a nation in just a few decades. Those decades line up exactly. It is truly an amazing thing how they line up with the periods of time that Ahab, Jezebel, Joram, and all perverted Israel. And in that prophecy, somebody's coming who's going to put an end to that, destroy that Jezebel, and I think it's destroy the Jezebel spirit over our country, and be a Jehu. And you read about the character of Jehu, okay, that's Donald Trump. I'm just saying, he was a wild chariot driver. They could see him, know who he was for a long way off, just the way he drove his chariot. So, but the exciting thing to me, okay, I think our country, we've been given grace, we've been given mercy. I think we're going to see the train back on the tracks. The economic recovery alone, we haven't seen anything like this. In such a short period of time, we've never seen anything like this. It is just starting to get traction in some areas. And if you followed some of the prophecies, like, I forget the guy, I met him, the fireman from down in Florida, Mark Taylor, who got back in 2011 about Trump becoming president. One of the reasons God was going to put him in was so that our national resources would not continue to be stolen from us by the nations. And the reason is God has a purpose for our resources. If we're going to be wealthy again, we're already have the most powerful economic engine in the world again, by a long shot. It's not just so we can raise our standard of living, it's so we can raise our standard of giving. God has a plan for this. Okay, a big plan. We need to get it lined up with this plan. But anyway, we've got a wild chariot driver at the helm. Now, I like that. I've said for many years, I'd rather die of almost anything than boredom. This isn't going to be a boring ride. I don't care. And the Lord also told me, I went up and met with him, and he said he's going to be like the Apostle Peter. You're going to say one day, blessed are you, this is straight from God. And you're going to say the next day, get behind me, Satan. He's going to be that way through his whole time. You're going to really love what he does and then really hate some of the stuff he does. I'm just saying, that's the way Peter was. But to me, the real thing, if he is Cyrus, remember the Lord had Isaiah prophesy about Cyrus hundreds of years before he came. Many think Daniel was the one who showed Cyrus his own name written in the prophecies. That it was Daniel the prophet. And there's, good reason. But if Cyrus is the one, the main thing Cyrus did to me, the most important, he was the one who mandated that the temple of God in Jerusalem be rebuilt. And he put out a call throughout the empire for all the Jews whose hearts moved them to return to rebuild their temple in Jerusalem. Then he gave safe passage to them, and he gave letters for his own resources in the Lebanese forest and everything else to be used for that. And he had Israel take up an offering from everybody throughout the empire for those who wanted to contribute to it. Okay, I'm just saying, I think this is a parallel. I think it is a spiritual parallel. I think you're going to see a remnant arise again and say, we got to finish the temple of God. This is the most important thing in the earth. We got to see him have a place to dwell. And guess what? We are that place. You are that place. And it's not just that he dwells among us and we have a manifest presence of the Lord in the meetings. This meeting isn't the church. You're the church 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Every one of us are supposed to carry his manifest presence. Guess what? We're here for that. He's got us here for a reason. I don't know of a better one. I can't think of a better reason to be alive. Well, anyway, you can read about all this in Ezra, in the first year of Cyrus, king of Persia. And this is one of the first things he did. Do you realize all the things that our president has done to take the yokes off of the church and for us to be able to get on with our business? And friends of mine pray with him every day. Do you know, a lot of people don't know this. You know how one of his campaign managers, Manafort, you remember who that was? He got fired. It's never been in the media why he was fired. They've said some things, reasons. Nobody knew the real reason. He had intercessors who prayed for him every single day. And he went 3 or 4 days and he didn't see them. So he started asking, where are my intercessors? And he was told Manafort wouldn't let him come to pray with him anymore. He went straight to Manafort, fired him on the spot. He said, nobody's going to keep these people from praying for me again. And this goes on every day now. I mean, this guy is almost addicted to prayer. And he sees like a Pentecostal. He raises, he just, yeah. And something's really rubbing off on him. Believe it or not. But anyway, read this in Ezra, the great proclamation that Cyrus put out. The proclamation throughout all his kingdom. Thus says Cyrus, king of Persia, the Lord, the God of heaven, has given me all the kingdoms of the earth, appointed me to build him a house in Jerusalem, which is Judah. He's saying, this is why God gave me all this authority. This is why God put me here, to get this job done. Then he says, whoever there is among you of all his people, may his God be with him. Let him go to Jerusalem, Judah, and rebuild the house of the Lord. Now, I think our house is laid desolate. I don't think we're even close to seeing the house of the Lord be what it is. And listen, we've got to go way beyond just having gatherings like this. And there are a lot of other things we can talk about and discuss. The main thing, whose hearts stir them? And listen, I hear people all the time say, I quit going to church because it was boring. I got injured there, got wounded there. So who hasn't been wounded at the church? Good night. But to be a part of that remnant says, I don't care. There's a higher purpose here. I'm not going to let anything drive me away to my assigned purpose. And these are the heads of fathers' households, I believe, who just said, we're going to stay. We're going to get this job done. But anyway, God said about Cyrus, Isaiah 45, the other prophets, that he was raising him up for 2 reasons, for the sake of Jacob and Israel. Do you ever see those distinctions? And sometimes in the same sentence, The Lord said, I'm doing this for the sake of my people, Jacob and Israel. It's like he's making a distinction. Now, I think there is. I think Jacob are the Jews who've not returned to their land. I'm just saying, I've got basis for this. But Israel has returned to their inheritance, and they're rebuilding their land. I was just in Jerusalem a couple of months ago. I tell you, when I stood on the Mount of Olives, first time I'd been there, looked down Jerusalem, I had one big thought. This is why we need a new one. I love Jerusalem. It's kind of a mess, you know. I mean, that you got, well, it's just a mess. You know, I mean, there's conflict constantly. And I've got so many friends there. I spent some time with friends there. They've given their lives to serve in Jerusalem. I appreciate them so much, but my hope is not in that Jerusalem. I want to honor them, support them, be a part of that everywhere I can, but we really need to see the new Jerusalem. That's where our vision is supposed to be. And think of this. Abraham, the first sojourner. You know, he was obviously a member of the aristocracy of one of the great cultures and nations of the time, the Chaldeans. That's where the 7 wonders of the world were, and obviously a very wealthy man. He left all of that to wander in a place he didn't even know where he was going because he had a vision of a city. A city that God is building, not men. And I think every true sojourner, which I think very few Christians are. Many are just trying to keep their fire insurance current. But they don't have a vision. They haven't seen the city. But true sojourners, they see something that God is building that is way beyond anything man could build. And they're doing everything to be a part of that city. Now, think of this. Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, it said, lived in tents. They were so wealthy, they made kings jealous. They could have built probably some of the nicest palaces in the world at that time. They said, we're not interested. A tent is fine. Because they had no lasting city. They weren't living for what they could get in this life. They had a bigger vision. They were doing everything. They wanted to stay flexible, mobile, able to move quickly, whatever. But it wasn't about what they got here. They were living for it. I tell you, those who see that city, anything man could build, the greatest palaces, greatest homes, everything else is going to be pitiful. We've seen the king, who are any presidents. You just can't be impressed with people like that. You honor them for the sake, we give honor to whom honor is due, but you're not going to be overwhelmed. What is the White House? I tell you, the White House is trivial compared to God's house. And again, we give honor and we give thanks for that. I thank the Lord for the blessings and everything else, but we've got to have a vision higher than that. And we've got to see the Lord's house restored. But anyway, these are the reasons God raised up Cyrus for the sake of Jacob and Israel. I think our moving our embassy back to Jerusalem, a major important issue. It's going to be major blessings to America. Then it says that men might know that he is the only true God. I'm looking for things under this man's administration. May not have anything to do with anything he does. But the Lord raised him up so that he could be known as the only true God. And then for the restoration of his temple that was lying desolate. I tell you, it's time to build the temple. And We talked about, his first two followers of Jesus. Lord, where do you dwell? Not just where do you bless? Not just where do you visit? Where do you dwell? Where's that place that you dwell? He will bless many things he won't inhabit. Now, I would encourage you to read Ezra, who was a part of the remnant, talks a lot about, what was done there. There's so many. I think Ezra and Haggai are two of the most important, timely scriptures that we could read, that we could understand right now. They're speaking exactly into our times and purposes.